Hi guys, welcome back to the new James Bond show with Krazy Kajeevie. I'm your host with no fears, limits or substitutes, the bad boy of James Bond. Though with this video, I may not seem like the bad boy because I'm really just a big, gooey softy at heart, and I do love and care about people. And this is why I'm making this video. I didn't plan on making this video at all. I came across a No Time to Die review of a gentleman that's well known in the James Bond community. I believe his first name is Ben. Of course, I just know his channel as the Bond Bulletin. I have seen his videos over the last few years and found them entertaining. And I find him very, very sincere when he's talking about James Bond. And he's clearly a very passionate James Bond supporter. And I watched his review. It's a spoiler-free review. And this video here will also be completely spoiler-free for those that haven't seen it. And thank you to all those people out there in the Bond community that are respecting people's rights to be able to go and see this film and enjoy it spoiler-free. So I watched, I hope I've got your name right, because you say your name pretty fast at the end of that video, but pretty sure it was Ben, and he's a German James Bond fan. And I was so saddened by this man's review. And the reason I'm making this video is just to, to extend my hand of support to him and to other James Bond fans out there. Now, some people could think, oh, grow up, you know, we're going through pandemics and people die and all this, but grow up, it's just a film. But as we know, the true diehard James Bond fans know that James Bond isn't just a film character to us. It's in many ways, it's a way of life. You can see all around me here, behind me, you know, this is just one room. I've got rooms of this. And so many other people do. We love James Bond. We've got the collections, the posters. Heck, we've got James Bond toothbrushes, James Bond towels. I've got a James Bond towel just hanging up on the wall, just there. We love James Bond. We love James Bond from print. We love James Bond from the films. Now, what I tried to do over 2 years, and some people took me the wrong way, and sometimes I would go back at people in the comment section. I don't mind anyone having an opinion against me. That's fine. Having a different opinion. I love different opinions. The world would be so boring if we all thought the same. But if people came out, which happened over a 2-year period, called me a homophobe, a racist, my best friend is black, by the way, a homophobe, a racist, because I didn't want their idea of James Bond. And what I was doing over a 2-year period was protecting. That's from my heart. That's what I was always trying to do. I was trying to protect James Bond. And even when I targeted and had a crack at a few James Bond channels, it was always from a good place. It was always from a place where either I knew something specifically a certain host of a show or a show was doing that other people didn't quite know or behind the scenes, or those channels decided not to defend James Bond. And I think some of those channels that refused to defend James Bond, and I'll give a quick example of this. In the last week and a half, Carey Fukunaga came out and accused James Bond, Sean Connery's James Bond in Thunderball, of being a rapist. And I'm going to get to Ben in the Bond Bulletin in a minute, but I'm just going to target this for a second. And not one James Bond channel, not one that I know, has come out and defended A, Sean Connery, and B, Ian Fleming's James Bond, and C, that film Thunderball. If anyone looks at it with facts, with detail, Patricia Fearing, the character Patricia Fearing, played by Molly Peters, was teasing Bond from the get-go. The first scene we see of her, she's wearing these almost skin-tight shorts in 1964, these short kind of uniform with shorts, and you can see everything, right? And then the way she's looking at Bond and his body, and then makes the joke about, he talks about, you know, it was a poker, an attack, and she's jibing at him the whole time. And there's that sexual kind of chemistry going back and forth. And then the scene where Carey Fukunaga accused Bond of being a rapist. Bond says someone's going to wish this day never happened. We as the audience, we clearly know Bond wasn't talking about the girl. He wasn't talking about Patricia Fearing. He was talking about the person that switched on, because he didn't get to see them, who switched on that rack machine he was in. That's who he was talking about. Patricia Fearing thought, oh, Bond's talking about her. So you can then see the fun glint in his eye. And so he makes a joke. And he walks towards her, towards Patricia Fearing. And he's like, well, I suppose my silence could have a price. And you can see its sexual humour. And you can see her character is like, oh no, she's not in any danger of being raped. And if you watch it carefully and you go really close, whether you go right up to your screen and you have a look, as Bond's like this, going into the steam room, she's walking freely into the steam room and she's got a massive smile on her face. Pause the screen, look right in close, and you'll see a massive smile on the character's face. And you'll see a massive smile, a cheeky smile, on Sean Connery's face. Now look later on, the later scenes, there's Bond in her room or in his room with a mink glove, massaging her, clearly after they've had sexual intercourse, right? The characters. And she's loving it. And then when Bond says goodbye to her when he gets in his DB5, she's all over him. She doesn't want him to go. She's like, oh, later, James. And then he comes out with that funny line. Right? It's called chemistry. It's called teasing. It's called the woman kind of playing hard to get. They don't like men. Women don't like men that are too easy. They like men who are macho and can play the game a bit. That's what women like. And I'm going to hit you with a hard bit here, but this is absolute fact. This isn't my fact. This is fact. If you look up and go and do your own research, you look up what women's number one fantasy is. And I'm not agreeing with it at all. And I'm not saying I know a girl that's had this fantasy. In fact, I'll tell you, an ex-girlfriend did. And I'm like, whoa, and I was shocked when she told me. But apparently the number one fantasy of a woman, a sexual fantasy, is being raped by an intruder. An intruder breaks into their home and does that to them. That's their fantasy. For better or worse. I mean, it's, but it's a fantasy. And I'm not saying it's right or anything, but that's what women fantasize about. So, but the fact is, Sean Connery, his James Bond, never raped that woman. And in the barn scene in Goldfinger, it's called foreplay. It was sexual foreplay. And remember what Honor Blackman's character, Pussy Galore, did to Bond. She's got the gun at his mouth, an extension tip on the gun going like this near his mouth, saying, ooh, you like close shaves, don't you? She's doing it around his mouth. What do you think that's hinting at? Women in the James Bond films push sexuality way more than James Bond does. If I said to you, name a scene where James Bond has his top off and he's flirting with a female audience, there's one scene you'd think of, and that would be Daniel Craig Casino Royale in the beach scene where he comes out of the water. That's the first one. Other than that, you would have to struggle to think of a scene where Bond's got his top off and he's flirting with the female audience. But in all the Bond films, you can think of it the other way. Now, Ana de Armas and mainly Lashana Lynch came out defending women and talking about we don't want to be objects and we want to be strong women. Then Ana de Armas plays a woman that's laughable. People love her in No Time to Die because she's jokey and silly. And she's like a goofy kid, right? But she's not a big, strong female woman just because she's doing those actions. But I guess that's where the humour is too. And I can appreciate there's humour in that too. And then Lashana Lynch, she's talking about strong female characters and not being objectified. But then you've got her in an interview, I think it was the Variety or whatever it was, and she's wearing this mini skirt that if it went up half an inch, you would see her lunchbox. Hence, Larry Lunchbox, because that's what she was showing, her lunchbox. That's where the joke comes from, guys. Okay? There's just this massive hypocrisy in the world today, and potentially within this James Bond community, especially from more the lefties that don't understand that James Bond is a male fantasy character. That's who Fleming wrote the books for males. Now, women like James Bond, excellent, that's awesome. But the real female James Bond fans I know, they love that Connery of 64 in Goldfinger, 65 in Thunderball. They love that. And this character has been pretty much this way from 1962 specifically up to 2002 with Pierce Brosnan's Die Another Day. And as this gentleman, the host of the Bond Bulletin, I think I said his name was Ben, he loves that James Bond. He clearly does. Now, over a 2-year period, I warned people, and again, no spoilers here, but I warned people, anyone that knows my spoilers, you already know what happens. You probably can go, I don't want to hear it, but you know in your heart. Everyone knows in their heart, at the moment, even American audiences and Australian audiences, and I'm in Australia, I haven't got to see the film. You know what they're going to do. And anyone that has watched my previous channel, right, my old channel, where I've got 2 years of videos exposing what they were going to do. This is not about a lack of humility or me boasting. I'm being as humble as anything, guys. But over that 2-year period, I guessed pretty much everything. And I'm going to make another video about my Dr. No prediction because I've actually done a bit more research and I 100% think Rami Malek was Dr. No, and I think they've changed that. I'm going to make a complete separate video on that, okay? Because that's the only real thing I got wrong, other than once saying Dua Lipa was going to do the song, and of course it turned out to be Billie Eilish. But when I watched Ben's video, I just felt so broken for this guy. It is the best, most sincere, sweet, decent No Time to Die review you will watch. It's just him in a close-up, like in the image I've got in the thumbnail, and he's just talking to the camera. And if you can't see this guy's heart break probably about 5 different times during his 20-plus minute review, then I can't help you. But you watch it, and this guy is shattered. So what I want to say to the James Bond fans out there, because I've watched the David Zaritsky review, I've watched the Calvin Dyson review, I've watched the Dutch Bond fan review for the main James Bond channels. I have watched so many reviews. I'm not watching the spoiler ones, but I'm watching because I don't want to know all the little bits that happen to her. I want some little surprises. But I can see that some Bond fans are trying to convince themselves this is a great film. And as I've said in my previous videos, if you look at this from a perspective and trust these producers, trust them that this is an enclosed James Bond series and they're going to go back to normal with standalone adventures, then maybe it can work for you. But the fact is, and again, no spoiler, I'm going to try and really be good here with no spoilers, guys, but the fact is, and this is just things you already know, they gave us a Black Felix. Ian Fleming did not write a Black Felix. They gave us a Black Moneypenny. Fleming did not write a Black Moneypenny. We got a female M. Okay, fine. And now, I've already done a video on it. It's not a plot spoiler. It's just about Q, the character, what they've done to Q. And now Q's gay. So if you have a look at this, guys, you have a look at what Ian Fleming, how he created the character of Major Boothroyd. He was writing guns for Bond, this guy called Major Boothroyd, who was a gun expert, and I believe he had a military background. He wrote Ian Fleming a letter basically telling him, I like your novels and that, but you got the guns wrong. And his name was Major Boothroyd, and his information was brilliant. Ian Fleming used his information, and he called this guy, this tough kind of army general dude, he took his name and gave it to Q, the armourer, in the Bond novels. Of course, we know today's Q, a.k.a. Major Boothroyd. Now Major Boothroyd, even though we don't, from what I know, I never remember ever hearing, I don't know if it happens in No Time to Die, and if it doesn't happen, don't tell me or whatever, because I want to see some little, things that I haven't seen, haven't been ruined for me yet. So I don't know if Q ever gets called Boothroyd. Now, obviously, they're not going to call him Major Boothroyd, but Q has now turned in, under the Barbara Broccoli era, which I have warned you all about, is all about now left-wing policy. Don't fool yourself. Do not fool yourself, guys. They have shat on this character. They have destroyed this character in the name of progression and political correctness. And I don't even need to see the film to know that, because all my predictions came true. I even predicted exactly stuff, scene for scene, what would happen, because I know the way these parasites think. Okay, what would Ian Fleming think of Ben Whishaw's spotty-faced, young geek, homosexual Q? That's not what he created. Now, if people want to go and make a film with homosexual characters, great, go do it. It's part of life. Whatever floats your boat, right? But why does a character that has a love for Bond, a care for Bond, creates the gadgets, etc., why suddenly, with absolutely no context and no way of pushing the story forward, no way of progressing the story, why does he have to be gay? Why do we have to know about his sex life? We don't. It's just an excuse to push that. And if Barbara Broccoli or anyone at Eon, and I don't deny, I'm not sitting here saying they've seen my videos, but why wouldn't they? Because they've got to know what the fans and the Bond YouTube channels out there think. Because they've got to market it to us in a way. Even though I think sometimes they probably ignore it. But if the James Bond people, this is a message to you, Barbara Broccoli, and Eon, rest of Eon and MGM. If you're so convinced that you made the right decision by making Q gay, then give that print to the Chinese. Give it to the Russians. And see how it goes. But I bet this entire James Bond collection, you don't submit the version you released in the UK, in Europe, in America, with gay Q. I bet you don't submit that version to the CCP communist nuts in China, or the hardline gulagers over in Russia. Bet you won't give them the film, will you? Okay, you're changing Bond from what we loved. Now, I'm not going to mention the end, and Ben in his video doesn't mention the end of No Time to Die, but he's gutted. And this is what's going to happen, and it's going to divide the community. And for the people that disliked his video, I think he had about 28 dislikes or 18 dislikes or whatever, but why are you disliking this guy's video? Why? He's sharing his heart with you. He's speaking his truth. And his video was brilliant. It was all the truth and it was facts. Now, he may be a bigger Brosnan fan than Daniel Craig. Fine, that's his call. And I don't think there's anything, I may not necessarily agree with everything he said, because I'm actually looking forward to seeing more of the human side of James Bond. I know there's another little character that they're keeping secret. Right, there's a little character, and I know Bond interacts with that character. I want to see that. I know we see James Bond with a ripped shirt on his boat and he's living off the grid in Jamaica. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing that. Now, that may not be Ben's cup of tea, but the guy is still heartbroken at what Eon overall and Daniel Craig, and this has got Daniel Craig's fingerprints all over it, of what happened to the character in No Time to Die. And I can understand why he's gutted. And so if you're sad out there about it, be honest about it. Be honest about it. You don't have to like the film. You don't have to like it, especially when we're coming out of, well, some people call it a pandemic. I have another word for it with an L after the P, which I won't say now. This video is not about that. But we come out of this garbage that's going on around the world where, we're having our freedoms taken from us. And then we come out. And Ben says he felt when he saw No Time to Die at the end of it, it was like being kicked in the teeth. I feel for him. I get him. So And you know what, Ben? If you see this video, and I'm going to link you in to it in the tags, I hope you see it, and I'll probably post. Oh, I can't post it in your comments because my point was, Ben, if you see this video, put your comments on. I think it's fair you do. Ben's got the comments turned off. Don't turn your comments off. Let people reach out to you because you're robbing your audience of doing that and just reaching out to you. And you know what? Then you'll find out, mate, that you're not alone. And Ben was very caring about Australian Bond supporters that we're not going to get the film to until the 11th of November. Now, I guarantee you guys, if some of you may not know this, you probably know that the worst state in the world, the most lockdown state in the world is Victoria. That's where I live. I am here in it. And I'll be honest. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. I'll be honest. I do these videos and I've been throwing myself into James Bond to get through this period because it's bloody shocking. When you see holes, like massive holes in your fellow Australians in their backs because they're being shot at by the police, and you see them bashed, kicked, bloodied faces, shot in the face with these rubber bullets. It's shocking. We have a curfew that starts at 9 p.m. We can't go anywhere without a face muzzle, though I refuse to wear one and I never have. And we're under constant lockdown. And you go anywhere, it's questioned or abused by police. Now, not all police are like that, but it's really, really, it's heartbreaking to see what we see all the time, and the news and everything are covering up and lying about it. And that's why I think I reach out, and can feel Ben's pain because he just wanted to see a film that made this side of, life just disappear for 2 hours. So sorry for getting a bit emotional, guys, but James Bond is a saving grace for people. It's something that we grab onto, and other hosts of other channels have talked about that. You get into James Bond to get away from the daily grind of life. Some people do it to escape their wife, their kids for a bit, their job, whatever. It's because it's such a man thing, and it's a thing we love to talk about to each other. And then when you have that destroyed by political correctness, especially when you love the novels and you want to see those novels up on film, and you have that raped and pillaged by political correctness. And the one thing that Barbara Broccoli absolutely threw into a fire, destroyed, it wasn't just that Albert Cubby Broccoli, her father, it wasn't just that he said, Barbara and Michael, always go back to Fleming, because they've done that at times, and that's worked out for them when they've done that. It's worked out for the fans too, I believe. But the main thing he said to her was, Barbara, Michael, do not let outside influences come into James Bond. Do not let outside influences come in and destroy it. And that is exactly what Barbara Broccoli has done. And that's why the James Bond film community is divided. I've been Krazy Kajeevie. Keep on bonding. Say hi to your mum for me.